Hi guys, today we're actually going to be talking about the things that happened over the weekend. So we actually had RFK's interview with Ben Shapiro. We had the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which should just be canceled already. We also have a Islamic State targeting Christians. Now, a lot of people said, oh, well, Israel's targeting Christians and blah, blah, blah. How about we pay attention to when it's actually happening? The Supreme Court also agrees that presidents have immunity from criminal prosecutions, but to what degree do they actually have them? We're going to be talking about all of those and a lot more on today's episode.
Facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas, think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past.
Moving right in, we actually have the RFK interview with Ben Shapiro. Now, I did a breakdown of this on Twitter. If you do follow me, you probably already saw it. My final takeaways of the Sunday special, which is the interview between the two of them, is this. If you like RFK, you also like to hold Big Pharma accountable by making sure that the FDA and the CDC are put on hold and cannot authorize any other additional vaccines and or food until we look at the side effects of those food or drugs that they already okayed, which is a good policy, of course. But then we get into the nitty-gritty about this. He wants to cut the military spending to actually save America, but he does not want to talk about Social Security and Medicare. He wants to do this in the middle of wars, but still give Ukraine and Israel money, which does not make any sense, so I don't know how he wants to split the baby. He also wants to allow moms to kill their babies until God knows when, because he never actually said a certain amount of weeks. Then he wants to quote unquote, well, I would say possibly with a grain of salt, look into the fact that Social Security and Medicare could be cut in the future, possibly. Okay. And then he also wants to focus on making the United States the quote hub for AI, but at the same time making sure that it doesn't steal our jobs because it's a national security threat, because it's taking over our jobs. So I just don't know how he wants to cut the baby over there. And then he wants to use AI at the same exact time as trying to make sure that it's not taking over our American jobs. He wants to also make sure that he uses AI to cut national spending by looking at all of the wasteful spending that it actually does, and then using AI to implement different ways that America could be saving money in the future. And then he wants to use blockchain to actually tell people exactly how the United States is spending our own money. So it's very, very strange. It's very, very interesting the ways that he wants to use AI, but then also at the same exact time not use AI. I don't know. I don't know how the baby can get split over there. I don't know how the baby can get split in different ways like that. So he wants to use it, but he doesn't want to use it, but he wants it to be the hub of America, because if it's not the hub of America, it's going to be the hub of China, which I totally agree with that. But then at the same exact time, what are we standing for then? I just don't understand. Because obviously if you go to a lot of Wendy's right now, you can see that they're actually using AI to have their drive-through lines go quicker. They already saw that AI is actually speeding up the process of order taking. So I will not be surprised if McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, stuff like that all try the AI model in their drive-through lanes, because if they can make sure that there's not a person on the window, but then there's also another person cooking the food, then they can get that done faster, so it's going to pay for itself. So I mean, it all depends on how you split the baby. Like I said, it depends on how you use AI. If you use AI to actually make sure that we are creating things on our own and not going to artists, let's just say, or filmmakers, because AI can just create a video on its own, then we're taking away those jobs. But not only that, but we can also have AI be like a lawyer now, because the OpenAI passed the bar exam, so you can ask it legal questions. So can you hire an AI to be your lawyer or your bookkeeper? So it's very, very interesting where this can possibly go. I don't know if he's talking about that. He wants to actually make sure that it does not expand to those locations, or is he talking about those other locations like the creativity location? So I don't know. I just really don't know, because if we do make America the hub for AI, then we need to make sure that we have other jobs available for the people to do other than that. So if we have AI take their jobs, do we have a backup offer for them so they still have a livelihood? Like what's going to be going on here? So I don't know. That's a big question to be asked. At the end of the day, we all know that it is a scary situation. It's a very, very touchy situation, because it depends on who you ask. Some people love AI, want to see the repercussions of it, want to see the good effects of it, but then other people don't want to see the good effects of it because they think that it's all evil. So yeah, it depends on a lot of different things here. I say get rid of AI. I mean, it's really not helping society, and we saw already AI is actually being taken advantage of, especially in the porn industry. history, we can actually see all of the things that we have already created as a society with AI in that aspect. So not good for society whatsoever. So with that being said, we actually have the White House Correspondents' Dinner that happened over the weekend. So Colin Joist or Colin Hoist or Colin Not Even Funny, the one at SNL that does Weekend Update, he thinks that he's funny when he recaps the weekly events that took place, but in actuality, it's really not even that funny. You can tell that he's trying very hard to be funny, so it's just not funny. It has not been funny since like 2018. That's the last time I watched SNL. So I have not watched it in about 6 years now. And I don't miss any moment of it at all. Moving right into it, former President Donald Trump actually commented on it and said that the Nerd Prom, as the WHCD is known, featured grips targeted at Trump delivered by President Joe Biden and the event's headliner, Saturday Night Live's Colin Joist. Oh, that's what it is, Colin Hoist. While anti-Israel protests swarmed the streets outside of this swanky affair. The White House Correspondents' Dinner was really bad. Colin just bombed, and Crooked Joe is just an absolute disaster. Doesn't get much worse than this, Trump said in a post on his Truth Social platform. During his remarks, Biden took repeated jabs at Trump, calling him Sleepy Don and alluding to the former president's ongoing legal battles. In addition, Biden used the grip to make light of a voter concerns about his age, 81, to knock his political rival. In 2024 election is in full swing. Yes, age is the issue. I'm a grown man running against a 6-year-old, Biden said. Well, I feel great. I really feel great. No, you don't really feel great because we see you sleeping. We see you saying pause when there's a teleprompter right in front of you. You're not feeling great. Biden also sought to convey a more serious message concerning Trump allegedly being a threat to democracy and warning about disinformation at the same time. Biden urged the media to rise up to the moment and uttered a series of partial truths out of context quotes. Joyce used his time in the podium to tell jokes as well, including one directed at Biden in his struggles to maintain the support of black voters in the run-up to the 2024 election. Quote, my weekend update, co-anchor Michael Chi was gonna join me here tonight, but in solidarity with the president, I decided to lose all my black support. He said, oh, yikes. That's just a jab. That's not really all that funny. It's just like, oh, that's crazy. Joyce got some cracks aimed at Trump as well, saying at one point, it's after 10 p.m. Sleepy Joe is still awake while Donald Trump has spent the last week falling asleep in court every morning. Through Fox News has said that he's just being anti-woke. Okay, but at the same exact time here, are you going to fall asleep during a court case that has nothing to do with anything? You know how absurd it is. And then you go to court and you're like, what is even going on? And then you just fall asleep. You fall asleep. Is Trump the president of the United States falling asleep at interviews or falling asleep at press conferences? No, that's Joe Biden. So when Trump's not talking, he's off to the side on his own court case falling asleep. That's one thing. But then you say, oh, well, he's sleepy. No, he's not sleepy. Look at Joe Biden at 9 o'clock p.m. Look at right after the October 7th massacre. October 8th, Joe Biden had a statement and he was falling asleep during it. He didn't even know how to talk. Toward the end of his remarks, just got sentimental as he spoke about his grandfather, William Kelly, who was a firefighter in Slayton Island, supporting Biden in the 2020 election. He voted for you, and the reason that he voted for you is because you're a decent man, Jost said to Biden. My grandpa voted for decency and dignity is why we're here tonight. That's just stupid. Well, maybe his grandfather knows the person that actually ate Joe Biden's uncle. So maybe they all know each other. Maybe this made up story is correct, but at the same exact time here, it would be a funny situation if they all knew each other. Like the Joe Biden's uncle actually knows Colin Joist's grandfather, which is going to vote for him in the 2024 election. Moving on to the next article, we actually have Islamic extremists attack and burn Christian homes in Egypt. Islamic extremists reportedly set fire to several Christian homes and businesses in southern Egypt last week. The violence broke out on Tuesday night in a village of Al-Frikr, which is home to about 3,000 Christian families. The local Christian community had recently received a permit to conduct a new church building, prompting backlash from some Muslim hardliners. The attacks were believed to be targeted by an attempt to build a new church in Al-Frikr's village in Manya province. One local source who asked to remain anonymous told the New Arab, when religious fanatics failed to expel Christians from their homes as a form of punishment, the extremists repeatedly burned down their houses while they were inside. That's disgusting. Video circulating on social media appears to show crowds of people dancing and celebrating in front of the burning building. The extremists attacked the Kopik homes with stones and chants, and a number of homes were set on fire. A amid the screams of women and children. Cops United, a religious adversary group, reported the attack continued for a long time before the security forces arrived. Yeah, because the security forces don't care. Security forces arrived and brought the situation under control, arresting the instigators and perpetrators. Coptic Bishop and Marcus said in a public statement on Wednesday, state agencies will compensate those affected and hold the perpetrators accountable. Calm prevails in the village. Now, may God protect our dear country, Egypt, from all harm. Christians have been long a persecuted minority in Egypt. Conversion from Islam to Christianity is illegal, and Christians are banned from holding certain public offices. In terror against churches and religious minorities are fairly common. Minya province, in particular, has been a hotbed of violence, with at least 77 incidents recorded between 2011 and 2016, according to the Egyptian Initiative for Personal Rights. According to the Cops United, a similar attack took place on Friday in the village of Al-Qam, El-Amar, after a local evangelical group was given permission to build a church there. Bishop Marcus himself survived an assassination attempt in 2013. The exact number of Christians within the country is contested, and officially Islamic Egyptian government has been accused of trying to downplay the size of its Christian minority. Estimates range between 5 to 15% of its country's 111 million people. Although it is generally agreed that the share is shrinking, likely as a result of the conversion, migration, and lower fertility rates compared to Egypt's Muslim majority. The majority of Egypt's Christians belong to the Coptic Orthodox Church, which claims descent from the Protestantites of Alexandria, one of the five major centers of early Christianity alongside Rome, Constantinople, Antioch, and Jerusalem. The Coptic Church broke away from what it would become the Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches in 451 AD after the Council Chalcedon over theological differences, and remained the dominant religion in Egypt until 641 by Muhammad's immediate successors in the Rashidun rightly guided caliphate. Egypt is also home to hundreds of thousands of Eastern Orthodox Christians, Protestants, and Christians, and a Catholic. An unacceptable culture of intimidation and discrimination is still far too prevalent in this country, despite positive steps taken by the Egyptian authorities in recent years. In the personal commitment of President Sisi to fight sectarian extremism and promote equality in citizenship. Citizen solidarity worldwide, President Marvin Thomas said in a press statement, Egyptian citizens should all be free to practice any religion or belief of their choosing without fear of threats or physical violence or killings. Like, what? You're just sitting here, you're living life, and all of a sudden somebody comes up to your house and just lights your house on fire or lights your church on fire that you've been visiting. It's disgusting. I can only imagine that. Sadly. Disgusting. I can't. Imagine this happened in America. Oh, we would never hear the end of it. We would never hear the end of it. And then Egypt, as soon as this breaks, well, you're not supposed to really talk about it, though. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about it. With that being said, we do have another article from the Federalist. We have the Supreme Court of America agrees presidents do have the majority, have the immunity from criminal prosecutions, but to what degree do they have it? The Supreme Court heard arguments on Thursday morning in the case of Trump v. United States on the question of whether and to what extent a former president of the United States enjoys immunity from criminal prosecutions for official acts while in office. Most of the justices seemed dubious about both parties' positions in this complex and largely uncharted area of law. No statute, prior Supreme Court precedent, or provision of the Constitution speaks directly on this issue. In 1982, the Supreme Court in Nixon versus Fitzgerald ruled that the presidents enjoy immunity from civil legislation based on their official acts. The court, in a 5-4 ruling, grounded the immunity in the Constitution's separation of powers. It reasoned that it would be inappropriate for the judicial branch to inquire into the reasons for presidential decisions for purposes of holding the presidency, the president personally liable for damages. The court emphasized the unique nature of the responsibilities of the president in arriving in this conclusion. In Trump's case, the parties and the justices all agreed that in certain points, first, that purely private conduct by the president, which which allegedly criminal, could be prosecuted. Trump's lawyer also conceded that campaign conduct, acting like an office seeker rather than an office holder, was private, rather than official conduct. Second, the president had some constitutional powers that are exclusive to the presidency, such as the power to grant pardons, and therefore acts carrying out these powers simply cannot be criminalized by Congress or prosecuted by prosecutors. These were referred to as core areas of presidential power throughout the argument. Beyond these 2 points, the parties and the justices widely diverged to their views, from the acceptable, the applicable non-mementure, to the scope of immunity, to their predecessorial mechanisms for implementing it in the courts. Technically, the question before the court is whether, and if so, to what extent does a president enjoy presidential immunity from criminal prosecution for conduct alleged to involve official acts during his tenure in office. Trump's lawyer, John Sawyer, urged the justices to find that former presidents enjoy immunity from criminal prosecution in the same way that the earlier Richard Gold case applied to civil cases. That ruling would preclude criminal prosecution for any act that came within the outer perimeter and the scope of president's official acts, regardless of the reason, motive, intent, purpose, etc., for taking those acts. Sawyer argued that the objective analysis should be used by the courts to determine if the conduct was or was not within the scope of the official responsibilities of the president. In other words, the analysis depends on whether the president's actions could be conceivably have been within the scope of the authority, and not on what the president actually had in mind. Okay, so I can kind of see where they're going with this, but at the same exact time, are you really going to sit here and say that spilling the beans on some documents is within the rights of the presidency? I don't really agree that it is, but at the same exact time here, we can also look at all the other presidents in history, and we can see that they did the same exact thing, if not similar things, to what Trump did, and they're not prosecuted. So are we going to sit here, try to prosecute all of the other people, but then we're going to sit here and say, oh well, there was a consensus to not prosecute your political rivals. Okay, so why are we doing it? Why are we doing it then? If there was a consensus not to prosecute your political rivals, because by the looks of it, Trump is getting prosecuted, in which he's in court every single day, supposedly falling asleep. So are we going to sit here and say, well, there's a president to be had? No, there's not a president to be had, because Hillary Clinton's email server got leaked. We didn't prosecute her. We had other presidents that kept their official documents in old buildings that used to be bowling alleys, but that's not bad. We have Obama taking all of his official documents and putting it in the official library. That's not bad. No, that's not bad, but it's Trump. It's bad when Trump does it. That's what annoys me. With that being said, we do have a couple more articles to get to. We have another Federalist article. We have the middle class Americans don't care about what Paul Krugman's charts say about inflation. Yes, it does not really matter about what people say about inflation when you cannot afford the food that you're buying. So when covering the political presidents of Bidenflation, I've noticed that economics keep wondering why opinion polls continue to show the American people are sour on the economy that continues to create jobs. Ultimately, the question in many ways comes down to the one's economic perspective, in the fact that it is so-called experts live far different lives than the people surveyed by most opinion polls. A column earlier this year, perhaps by the Pentagon of liberal economic opinion, shows the not so subtle snobbery behind the failure to take families' inflation concerns seriously. It also explains why Americans' economic insecurities could be in the result of a political bloodbath for the left come November. New York Times elitism. In late February, the New York Times Paul Krugman dedicated a newsletter commentary to grocery prices, citing Bureau of Labor statistics and data. He claimed that prices of the grocery stores for home consumption rose 19.6% between January 2021 and January 2023, then another 1.2% over the following year. Yes, grocery prices are up a lot, but not nearly as much as some people claim, and the big surge is behind us. In a typical flippant manner, Krugman went on to inveigh against the vehemence and sheer silliness of the grocery truthers, analyzing that cost of goods at Walmart versus official Bureau of Labor statistics data, his results in a graphical form. So if we look July 2019 through July 2020 and August of 2019 and December of 2022, we can see that the BLS is actually higher than Walmart. We can see that in 2019 to 2022 July, we can see that Walmart was actually higher than BLS. In trying to rebut refute what he describes as an ad hominem attacks by commentators that claim grocery prices have doubled under President Biden and are still soaring. Krugman's totally missed the forest for the trees. Whether ordinary citizens know the specifics of whether grocery prices have gone up in 10%, 110%, or 1000%, they recognize that prices have gone up by more than they can afford. Krugman's technically admitted this with his column self-owned. Start with the visual evidence he offered in the form of the Federal Reserve chart of the BLS data to claim the grocery prices are up a lot, but not nearly as much as some people claim, and the big surge is behind us, quote unquote. Yes, the increases have tailed off in the past few months, but the chart shows a huge increase in the middle of 2021 through the early of 2023. Not exactly a reason for most families to break out the champagne and celebrate, not least because champagne prices have went up by double digits last year alone. Okay, that's actually funny though. So actually, you want to celebrate? Yeah, it's behind us, but you can't even celebrate because that celebration technique is actually up double from last year. So good luck with that. Again, remember, Krugman has argued that because grocery prices only went up by 20% only from 2019 through 2022, people should follow the message of the Obama Wan Kenobi in reverse. Look, don't trust your feelings, but to most families, a 20+% increase in grocery prices over the last 3 years is huge. My income certainly did not go up in the 20% in 3 years, and I'm guessing that holds true for most families as well. But Paul Krugman is different. And to most families, it's not a question of their feelings and how much prices have gone up. It's about the outcomes. Not being able to afford a vacation, pay for car repairs, or find a first home now that mortgages rates have gone through the roof. Krugman admits that he doesn't have these problems. Quote, I also sometimes think about what I paid for roughly in the same stuff 3 years ago, and the truth is that I have no idea. I know that it was less, but off the top of my head, I cannot tell you what percentage. And if you say you can, forgive me for having doubts. Okay, so he obviously is an elite. He does not need to actually quote unquote afford anything because his income is way above everything else. So he goes into the grocery store, he picks out exactly what he wants, and he doesn't worry about it because his bills are paid. But he does not care about the middle class families that cannot get their bills paid because they are behind on rent. They have their credit card rates all the way up. They have their mortgage. They have everything. They have the water bills. Every single thing is week to week. As soon as you get paid, boom, the whole entire paycheck is out the window. So you do not have these you do not have a little bit of wiggle room for grocery prices to go up $50. Most Americans do not even have an emergency savings account. So never mind that, they use their credit card as their emergency savings account, and it gets them into a bigger hole. It's crazy, and it's so bad. This economy is not good. You go into even Aldi, which is a cheap supermarket, and prices are even up there. You cannot win wherever you go. With that being said, we can end off this in a lesson learned. Lesson being learned today is if you see something in the New York Times or if you see something in an elite paper, obviously trying to convey a certain narrative to the inflation or people actually making more now than they were ever in history. Do you feel that way? Not really. No, that's what we need to know right away when reading articles like this from Elite. With that being said, not this one, but obviously from the New York Times. With that being said, I'm going to end off this episode here. If you did like this episode and you do want to see more analysis by me, I do upload new episodes of my show every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for enjoying, and I hope they have a great rest of your day.